Emma stared at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror, smoothing down her simple navy dress for the third time. The fabric was soft but worn, a hand-me-down from her sister Madison that had seen better days. Her hands trembled slightly as she applied a thin layer of lip gloss, the only makeup she could afford to replace regularly. "You look fine," she whispered to herself, though fine felt like an overstatement. She looked tired, which she was. Working double shifts at the diner while taking night classes left little time for sleep, let alone proper self-care. The sound of heels clicking against hardwood floors echoed from the living room. Madison appeared in the doorway, stunning as always in a designer dress that probably cost more than Emma made in a month. Her blonde hair cascaded in perfect waves, and her makeup looked professionally done. "Emma, thank God you're ready," Madison said, checking her diamond watch. "I need you to do me the biggest favor." Emma's stomach dropped. She recognized that tone. Madison only used it when she wanted something that would benefit her at Emma's expense. "What kind of favor?" Emma asked carefully, though she already suspected what was coming. Madison bit her perfectly manicured lip, a gesture that might have seemed vulnerable on anyone else but looked calculated on her. "I have this blind date tonight. Mother arranged it with some CEO guy, supposedly very wealthy and successful. But Jake called, and he's flying in from Los Angeles unexpectedly. You know I can't miss seeing him." Emma knew about Jake. Madison's on-and-off boyfriend who treated her terribly but whom she couldn't seem to quit. Emma had held her sister through enough tearful nights to recognize the pattern. "So you want me to cancel your date?" Emma asked, though she suspected that wasn't the plan. "Not cancel," Madison said quickly. "Just go in my place. For like 20 minutes. Tell him I got sick or something came up. Apologize nicely, and then leave. He'll never know the difference." Emma felt her chest tighten. "Madison, I can't pretend to be you. That's crazy." "It's not pretending to be me," Madison said, waving her hand dismissively. "It's just handling an awkward situation. Look, I know it's not ideal, but Mother will kill me if I stand him up completely. She's been trying to set this up for months. The guy owns some huge company." Emma wanted to say no. Every instinct told her this was a terrible idea. But Madison was her sister, and despite everything, Emma found it almost impossible to refuse her when she was desperate. 20 minutes, Emma said finally. Just long enough to apologize and explain. Madison's face lit up with relief. "You're the best sister ever. I owe you big time." 30 minutes later, Emma stood outside Romano's, one of the city's most expensive restaurants. The warm glow from the windows made the place look like something from a fairy tale, completely out of her league. She took a deep breath and walked through the heavy glass doors. The hostess, a polished woman in her 30s, smiled professionally. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" I'm meeting someone. Under the name Madison Walsh." "Of course. Mr. Bennett is already here. Right this way." Emma followed the hostess through the elegant dining room, past couples dining by candlelight and businessmen sharing expensive wine. She felt completely out of place, like an imposter in her simple dress and drugstore shoes. The hostess stopped at a corner table where a man sat with his back to them. As he turned, Emma's breath caught. He was younger than she'd expected, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair and kind eyes. But what surprised her most was the little girl sitting beside him, coloring intently in a coloring book. "Mr. Bennett, your guest has arrived," the hostess said. The man stood, extending his hand with a warm smile. "You must be Madison. I'm David Bennett. And this is my daughter, Sophie." Emma shook his hand, momentarily forgetting her mission. His handshake was firm but gentle, and when he smiled, tiny lines appeared around his eyes that suggested he did it often. "Sophie insisted on coming along," David continued, looking slightly embarrassed. "My babysitter canceled last minute, and I couldn't disappoint her. She's been looking forward to trying the kids' menu here all week." The little girl looked up from her coloring, revealing bright blue eyes identical to her father's. "Daddy said we're having dinner with a new friend," she announced seriously. "Are you the new friend?" Emma's heart melted instantly. The child couldn't have been more than 5, with pigtails that suggested David had attempted to do her hair himself. There was something so sweet and vulnerable about this father-daughter pair that Emma forgot entirely about her plan to leave quickly. Yes," Emma heard herself saying. "I'm Emma." She caught David's slight frown at the name, but before he could comment, Sophie was tugging on Emma's dress. Emma's a pretty name. Will you help me color? Daddy's not very good at staying in the lines. Emma found herself sitting down, accepting the crayon Sophie offered her. What are we coloring? A princess castle, Sophie said proudly. With lots of flowers around it. As Emma began carefully coloring a row of tulips, she was aware of David watching her with curiosity. When Sophie became absorbed in her work again, he leaned closer. I thought your name was Madison, he said quietly. Emma's cheeks burned. It's complicated. David studied her face for a moment, and Emma was surprised to see understanding rather than anger in his expression. Family complications. Emma nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Emma's much prettier anyway, David said simply. It suits you better. Their eyes met across the table, and Emma felt something flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with nerves about the deception. The waiter appeared to take their orders. Emma had glanced at the menu and nearly choked at the prices. Everything cost more than she made in a day. I'll just have a salad, she said quickly. I'm not very hungry. David raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? The salmon here is excellent. Really, just a salad is fine. David seemed to understand without her having to explain. When the waiter left, he leaned back in his chair, studying her with those kind eyes. So, Emma, tell me about yourself. What do you do? This was dangerous territory. Madison was studying art history at an expensive private college, funded by their parents. Emma was taking business courses at community college while working at a diner. I'm between things right now, Emma said carefully. Trying to figure out what I want to do next. It wasn't entirely a lie. She was trying to figure out how to afford to continue her education while keeping a roof over her head. I can relate to that, David said, surprising her. I took over my father's company when I was 25, had no idea what I was doing. Spent the first 2 years convinced I was going to run it into the ground. But you didn't, Emma observed. No, but it was touch and go for a while. He glanced at Sophie, who was now drawing what appeared to be a rainbow over her castle. Having her changed everything. Suddenly I wasn't just responsible for myself or even the company. I had to build something lasting for her. There was such love in his voice when he spoke about his daughter that Emma felt her chest tighten with emotion. This wasn't the cold, wealthy businessman she'd expected to meet and quickly escape from. Where's her mother? Emma asked softly, then immediately regretted the personal question. David's expression grew carefully neutral. She decided motherhood wasn't for her when Sophie was 2. It's been just the two of us ever since. The pain in his voice was subtle but unmistakable. Emma found herself reaching across the table to touch his hand before she could stop herself. I'm sorry, she said simply. David looked down at their joined hands, and Emma started to pull away, but he gently caught her fingers. Thank you, he said. Most people either pity us or act like we're some kind of tragic story. You're the first person who's just understood. Sophie looked up from her drawing, noticing their linked hands. Are you going to be my daddy's girlfriend? She asked with the directness only children possessed. Both Emma and David laughed, the tension breaking. Sophie, David said gently, Emma is just a friend. Oh, Sophie said, sounding disappointed. I thought maybe she could teach you to color better. Emma grinned. I could give him some lessons. Really? Sophie's face lit up. Could you come to our house sometime? We have lots of coloring books. Emma's heart sank. She'd been here for over an hour now, far longer than the 20 minutes she'd promised Madison. And she was falling for both father and daughter in a way that was going to make this deception hurt even more when it inevitably came to light. Sophie, Emma is probably very busy, David said, reading Emma's expression correctly. Actually, Emma found herself saying, I'd love to see your coloring book collection sometime. David's smile was radiant. We'd like that very much. Their food arrived, and conversation flowed easily as they ate. David asked thoughtful questions and listened to her answers with genuine interest. Sophie chattered about her kindergarten class and showed Emma every picture she'd colored. Emma found herself relaxing for the first time in months, forgetting about her exhaustion, her money worries, and even the lie that had brought her here. It was only when her phone buzzed with a text from Madison asking how the mission was going that reality crashed back over her. David noticed her expression change. Everything all right? Emma stared at her phone, then at the man and little girl across from her who had somehow become important to her in the span of a few hours. The weight of her deception felt crushing. "David, I need to tell you something," she began, her voice shaking. He set down his fork, giving her his full attention. "My name really is Emma," she said. "But I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. Madison is my sister. She had other plans and asked me to come apologize and leave. I was only supposed to stay 20 minutes. David was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Sophie continued coloring, oblivious to the adult drama unfolding. "So Madison was supposed to be my date," he said finally. Emma nodded miserably. "I'm sorry. I know it was wrong to deceive you. I should have just told you the truth from the beginning and left." "But you didn't leave," David observed. "No," Emma whispered. "I didn't want to." David leaned forward, his voice gentle. "Emma, look at me." She raised her eyes to meet his, expecting to see anger or disappointment. Instead, she saw warmth and something that might have been relief. "I'm glad you stayed," he said simply. "And I'm glad you're Emma, not Madison. You are. From the moment you sat down, something felt right in a way it hasn't in a very long time. If you had been Madison, if this had been just another arranged date my mother-in-law set up, it wouldn't have been the same." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "But I lied to you. You protected your sister and got caught up in something that turned into something real," David corrected. "That's not the same thing." Sophie looked up from her coloring, sensing the emotional weight of the conversation even if she didn't understand it. "Are you sad, Emma?" she asked with concern. Emma wiped her eyes, smiling at the little girl. "Not sad, sweetheart. Just surprised. Good surprised or bad surprised?" "Very good surprised," Emma said, and meant it. David reached across the table again, taking her hand. "Emma, would you like to have dinner with us again? A real date this time, with no deception or confusion. Just you, me, and Sophie if she promises to share her crayons." "I always share my crayons," Sophie said indignantly. Emma laughed through her tears. "I would love that." As they prepared to leave the restaurant, Sophie slipped her small hand into Emma's. "I'm glad you came tonight," she said seriously. "Even if you were supposed to be someone else." Emma squeezed the little girl's hand gently. "So am I, sweetheart. So am I." Walking out into the cool evening air, Emma realized that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. She had come here tonight to clean up her sister's mess and had found something she didn't even know she was looking for. David walked them to his car, Sophie chattering excitedly about showing Emma her room and her stuffed animal collection. As he helped his daughter into her car seat, he turned to Emma. "I know this all happened in an unconventional way," he said. "But I want you to know that what I felt tonight was real. What we shared was real." Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. "Can I drive you home?" he asked. Emma glanced at the expensive car, then thought about her tiny apartment in the not great part of town. But David had seen through her simple dress and lack of pretense to something he valued more than appearances. Maybe he would understand the rest too. "I'd like that," she said. As they drove through the city streets, Sophie falling asleep in her car seat and David's hand finding hers in the comfortable silence, Emma marveled at how a night that had started with deception had led to the most honest connection she'd ever felt. Sometimes, she thought, the wrong turn led you exactly where you needed to be.